Hi, my name's Jason. This is a regular magazine, and in this video we're going to look back at 2024 to see what went right and what went wrong, and then I'm going to go through what I have planned for 2025. So last year I tried a lot of different things. One of the ones I tried was Weird Tales, and that was videos where I looked at strange, weird things that happened in military history. I think we did one last. I did one last year on some of the sort of bizarre psyop stuff that was the Americans did during the Vietnam War. I also did a urban myth of story of it where 3,000 Chinese troops disappeared off the battlefield. And those have done quite well. I covered like Foo Fighters, recently time slips, and going forward, I'm going to continue doing those. What I'm going to do is what I did with time slips. I will go through the weirdness, the weird strange, and then after that, I'll probably go talk through how you could incorporate elements of that weird tale, those weird things, into a war game, like I did with time slips. I suggested that you could do a one-off scenario where you and your friend are fighting, and there's a time slip occurs at some point during one of the terms, and troops from another period appear, and you're having to deal with those as well as each other, and you would roll for how many turns they would last, and then they just disappear again. So we're going to continue with that with the Weird Tales, and I've got some lined up. One of the other things I'm going to continue is unboxings. Those have done really well this year, and I've really got the hang of unboxings now a lot better. And I can pretty much film and edit those quite quickly. So what I'm going to do this year is when I do an unboxing, that won't be released as the weekly video. It will be released as an additional video that week. That week I do the unboxing. So some weeks during the course of 2025, there will be 2 videos going out. There'll be the usual one that goes out on a Sunday, and then I'll do the unboxing will probably go out midweek or something like that. So I've been doing the channel now for about 2 years, and I kind of got the hang of talking on camera now. That was one of my big things to sort of work out, improve, should I say, because I was never comfortable being in front of a camera. So that I'm now comfortable doing that. One of the things I want to start doing is start improving the tech. I've done some stuff to improve the audio. The next thing I want to do is improve my camera setups. At the moment, I'm using mobile phones. I do have DSLRs. I just don't have the room for a DSLR setup at the moment. I kind of need to sort of sort out my hobby room so that I can actually set up DSLRs. And I'm looking at ways in which I can set up DSLRs. And mainly for that is so I can actually do painting videos. Because I want to do, in 2025, I want to do some videos around painting small scale. And looking at using traditional paints as well, and then as well as contrast sort of speed paints. So I kind of need to do that. I need to improve that, and kind of do something with the lighting. I may do something with the background. My biggest problem is that this here is French doors, and if I kind of have to have these covered because the light coming in is just too much, and it sort of wipes me out. But I need to do something with the lighting, and something maybe sort out that background behind me because it kind of looks a bit of a mess and a bit distracting, I think. So do something with those Kallax units at some point. It may be a case of I have to do a complete change around of the room. So yeah, I started been doing, like I said, I've done a lot of small scale, and I've kind of over the last 2 years sort of trying to work out what the channel is and what the focus of the channel is. And I'm getting to the point where now I'm going to, as I'm moving forward into 2025, I'm going to be predominantly looking at doing more small scale stuff. I think, as well as things like terrain and stuff like that. I'm still going to do some of the history stuff and incorporating that into wargaming, but I'm going to concentrate on smaller scale, and I think that's what I'm going to be doing going forward. And I've done quite a bit over the last 12 months, and those have done really, really well. One of the ones I did where I looked at 1/7/2 scale for wargaming hit over 11,000 views. So I kind of now got to that thing where I think I need to sort of concentrate more on the smaller scale. There are more than enough people out there doing 28mm and doing 40K and Age of Sigmar and stuff like that. My plan is to do smaller scale and look at some of the more not as popular systems out there. So whilst I might do the odd GW related video, most of it is going to be non-GW related, and it's going to be smaller manufacturers, things like that, and a variety of different gaming systems. So in 2024, I tried a number of things on the channel, one of which was some sort of video series. Some went okay, some kind of didn't work, and there were reasons for that, and some did reasonably well. The ones that kind of didn't work were the Napoleonic stuff and the English Civil War. And I think for one of the reasons was because I wasn't very consistent with what I was doing. I kind of didn't go with a set plan for what was going to be in those videos as a series. I just made random videos about various subjects around either the Napoleonics or English Civil War, and so it didn't quite gel. Now, one of the series that did okay was War Plan Red. And I think one of the reasons why it did better was because I planned that out, and I also recorded them all fairly quickly. So there weren't gaps between videos. So I think I recorded 8 videos and they went out over a couple of weeks, whereas the Napoleonic and the English Civil War, there wasn't any consistency of where videos appeared. So, yeah, the English Civil War and the Napoleonics didn't do as well as I thought they were going to do. War Plan Red did better. The other series that I started doing was Medieval, and what I did with that was, whilst I didn't do them all in one go and put them out over a couple of weeks like I did with War Plan Red, there was more consistency and they went out on a regular basis. And those did better. Some videos did better than others, but on the whole, that series worked better. Now, the other things that I did was projects, and the projects didn't work at all. And I think I tried to do them as just like a series of videos, and I just don't think they worked very well at all. Now, I'm still going to do projects videos, but I'm not going to do them as a series of videos. What I will do is I will film myself doing the project, painting it, and I'll make it as a one-off video. So that one video will go from start to finish of a project, rather than me trying to do, say, 2-3 videos going forward. And I just don't think the project as a series worked. So I think what I'll do is I will film them over a period of weeks and then edit it as one actual video that will go out. And that one video will cover the whole process of that project. for that particular army or whatever it is I'm doing. Now, I did get, painting-wise, I did get quite a lot of miniatures painted last year. I think it was in the region of around, on a rough count, around 500, and that was multiple scales as well. So I had some 10mm stuff, some 20mm stuff, a lot of 15 and a lot of 28, as well as a lot of scatter terrain. Last year I bought the Mantic Crazy crates for the terrain Crazy crate, and I've pretty much painted all that now. The only bits I've got left of that particular sort of mystery box that haven't been painted are the interior scatter, but all the exterior scatter from that box has been painted, and there was a lot. If Mantic do it again this year, I'd highly recommend getting it, because it was absolutely rammed and it was well worth it. Now, admittedly, a lot of that exterior scatter was sort of, basically would only work with 20th century modern, as in current 21st century. You could probably, some of it you could maybe push around a bit further back, whereas a lot of the more interior scatter could pretty much go sort of mid-19th right up to modern day. But otherwise, it was still well worth picking up. And this year, if they do them again, I'll probably pick up another crazy crate, but not terrain. I'll probably pick up one of the others. So one of the projects I started doing last year was Gangs of Rome, and I've painted up a whole ton of miniatures for it, but I still haven't done the terrain. And that's one of the things I want to concentrate a lot more on going into next year is terrain. I've got a lot of terrain. I've been painting terrain the last 12 months, but most of it's been scatter. And going forward, I want to start doing some of the more buildings and looking at buildings in general. So whilst what I have covered on terrain-wise has worked, it's worked quite well, I want to do a lot more of it going forward. So I'm going to be doing a lot more looking at Gangs of Rome and the terrain and stuff around Gangs of Rome. So, like I said, project-wise, I painted up quite a bit. One of the things I did was last year, beginning of last year, was Hero Quest. So I painted up everything in Hero Quest, and that was quite satisfying. And I might do that again with another board game that's miniature-based, because that was quite satisfying to paint up all of the bits and pieces in Hero Quest. So now I have a fully painted board game, miniature board game. So I might look at doing that again with one of the other board games I've got that are heavily miniature based. So that could be Imperial Assault, because I've got a bit of Imperial Assault, I've not painted it. It could be a number of things. I've got some D&D ones that I've not painted the miniatures for, so I might do that again in 2025, because that was quite a satisfying project to do. But unlike, I tried to do it over, like I did before earlier, I tried to do it over several videos and it didn't work. So whatever I do will be in one video, and it'll be filmed and edited as one finished item. So you'll see what the process of where I start to finish, like I said earlier. Anyway, that's it for 2024. So I'm going to start talking about 2025 and what I have planned. Okay, let's move on to 2025. Let's move on to 2025. I've come outside because it's a bit of a variety. As you see, we've got snow overnight. So what do I have planned for 2025? I'm probably going to stick with a lot more small scale. The plan is to work on some small scale projects, of which will include the Warlord Epic battles, and I'm looking at doing American Civil War. I got the Guts and Glory set, which I did an unboxing of last year, and I just haven't got around to starting that project. So we'll be continuing that one this year. I'm also going to be doing English Civil War in that same scale, and I'm going to be doing some of the ancient stuff as well in the Warlord Epic Battle scale. I've got a Carthage army that I need to sort of build and paint, So I'm going to be doing that. Other projects going to be looking at is Judge Red Miniatures, also by Warlord. Start off with an unboxing, and then I'll be getting on with painting with that. Now, some other things I want to be doing over next year is starting to look at some of venturing outside of Britain and Europe with the medieval theme, and I want to look at Asia. So I want to look at, for instance, Genghis Khan and the conquest of Europe. I also want to look at Kublai Khan and his conquest of China. I want to do some samurai stuff, and I also want to look at pre-colonial Africa. So I think there's some quite interesting bits and pieces in Africa pre-colonial that would be of interest for wargaming purposes, as well as the history. I think history is quite fascinating, and it's not something we tend to see a lot about. Mainly probably because it's European centric. We only tend to see the African history where Europe became involved with Africa. So I want to go a bit before that. I'm also going to look at colonial Africa and some of the conflicts in there. And I'm also going to be looking at 20th century conflicts in Africa. And I think the first video I've got coming out for that is looking at the Cold War. Some of the conflicts around independence, Cold War type driven conflicts, and there's the fact that there's mercenaries in Africa. So other things that we've got planned, I've got planned for 2025 is look at more terrain. I want to go down the route of looking at a lot more terrain. Everything from sort of paper, scratch build, and then stuff you can buy MDF and 3D printing and stuff like that, and plastic kits. And one of the first videos I plan to do is have a look at Dave Grafham's paper models. It's really quite nice, and they're quite worth a look at, and they're not that expensive. They're like budget range. With that in mind, I'm considering also going down the 3D route. I may at some point later on in the year get a 3D printer, and that purposely for doing like terrain and other bits and pieces experimenting with. And I'm looking at the Bamboo Labs A1 for that. So that might be something I sort of delve into for a bit. And now those, if I do that, the videos will be my journey of getting to grips with 3D and 3D printing and how I find it, as well as some sort of review of any sort of nice models that I come across. I'm also planning to do some fantasy in 15mm, and that will be 15mm more time. So looking at where we can get 15mm suitable mill models for 15mm that'll work in more time, and as well as building some terrain. I'm also going to be doing a look at 15mm Lord of the Rings, and we'll look at which models will work for Lord of the Rings, and then as well as looking at terrain and stuff like that. I'm also going to be doing a series of videos called Blasts from the Past. And anyone that's read the magazine will know that that's quite a regular feature within the magazine, Blasts from the Past. And basically what it is we take a look at an old game that was popular back in the day. And so I'm going to be start doing some videos on that, because I want to look at some of the rule miniatures that came before 40k, but were written by the guys that wrote 40k. So that will include Laser Burn and Imperial Commander. So we've got those going on. I'm still going to be doing the weird tales. I've got some lined up, some weird tale stuff. And I'm going to be looking at other issues and topics within wargaming. We're going to be doing regular unboxings as usual. And then we're going to carry on with medieval. I said medieval. We'll still continue looking at some of the European stuff and the stuff that happened in the UK. I'm also going to start a project series on wargaming in the Bronze Age and Iron Age Britain before the Romans. So looking at some of the Celtic tribes and warfare of the Celts, and then what miniatures you could use in those games. So I probably look at some 6 million upwards. I'm going to try and get to some shows this year. I didn't get to any last year. I'll only go back to Jura 6 again, because that was quite a nice little show. And I'm probably going to check out some others. So what else have I got planned for next year? Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot more small scale. I'm not going to go away completely from 28mm. I'm doing a lot of stuff with Gangs of Rome at the moment. And I want to do some stuff around the Anarchy, which is the sort of civil war, 12th century, between Empress Matilda and Stephen. Because that's quite an interesting one. It's not one of those ones that's covered very often. I quite like it. So I'll be looking at that. And that was sort of technology we sort of fell in between sort of the Norman style of equipment and then sort of the later sort of 13th century, 14th century medieval. So you started saying full helm and things like that. So we'll be looking at that. What else have I got planned for next year? Should have written this down. I think, oh yes, we're going to be looking at bolt action. But I'm going to be looking at bolt action in China. So from sort of like, I'm going to go back to sort of 1931 and the Japanese invasion of Manchuria and onwards. And what I'm also going to do is looking at putting together an army for bolt action, but also an army for flames of the war. So Chinese nationalists. And we'll also look at the communist forces during World War II as well. And I'm basically going to look, for the nationalists, I'm basically going to look at early war, because that's what I think the more interesting, because prior to sort of the invasion of Manchuria, you had the warlord period in China, where lots of warlords built up their own private armies. And then the KMT, Chinese nationalists, took charge of China, and they amalgamated those forces into their forces. And so what you have is an eclectic collection of military hardware. So you've got this kit that the nationalists have, which was predominantly German, a lot of early German equipment. Then you had the warlord stuff, and the warlord stuff could be quite bizarre. So you could have everything from Rolls-Royce armoured cars to Russian kit to early British kit like Vickers tanks and stuff like that, and there was French stuff. So the armament, rifles, artillery, they were using a collective amount of different equipment in that early period. And I think building a force from that could be quite interesting. And now that Flames of War are going into the early war, there's a lot of kits that will come out which we'll be able to incorporate into a Flames of War early Chinese nationalist army. Or you could go back to warlord period and build a warlord force, which would be equally as interesting, to be fair. And I think those are the main areas I'm going to be covering in 2025. I'm hoping to do a lot more painting stuff, looking at especially speed paints and contrasts on small scale. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot more terrain, so I might do some kit bash, scratch build, terrain tutorials, videos, and generally trying to nail down the channel, to be honest. I think I've been going now for nearly 2 years, and I'm just getting sort of into the sort of run of things, and I think the channel is heading towards specializing predominantly in small scale wargaming, 15mm, 20mm, maybe, and 6mm, 10mm, with a major slant towards historical, but with some sci-fi and fantasy as well. So yeah, that's what I've got planned for 2025. Don't forget to check out. I'm going to be dropping videos every week. Occasionally there'll be 2 videos a week, but the second video will be, if I've got an unboxing to do, the second video will be an unboxing, because I find those quite easy now to put together. So it will still be a main topic video on a Sunday, and then I'll drop in midweek an unboxing on those weeks. Anyway, that's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.